So you know how a lot of people buy adventure bikes and then they don't actually take them on adventures? They just drive to the nearest Starbucks and park in front of it, and because their bike looks so cool, it's become sort of a thing. And probably no bike is a bigger culprit of this than the BMW GS. Today though, I'm gonna see if there is going to be a better alternative as your ultimate Starbucks adventure bike. And our champion, the Husqvarna Norden 901.
Now, you may think that this is a ridiculous premise. No real YouTuber worth half their salt would entertain this idea. It's a performance off-road bike. You have to take it off-road. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm as real as it gets. I have no advanced riding skills or wealth of experience riding off-road. I just enjoy riding bikes and looking at bikes and occasionally complaining about bikes. In other words, I'm exactly like most of you. And as much as a handful of you may actually take these massive ADVs off-road and thrash them around a black diamond trail, the fact remains that most of these will end up taking maybe a short trip to Genting Highlands on a beautiful Sunday morning and be parked in front of a trendy cafe there. And no top-of-the-line ADV gets bought for this specific purpose more than the BMW GS. It's got brand value, it's got presence, it's got performance, it's got technology, and most importantly, it looks really good with 3 aluminium top boxes. That's why to know whether the Husqvarna Norden 901 could even hope to compete with Bavaria's finest for parking spots in front of trendy biker cafes, we'd have to take it through this proving ground. But before we set off, there were some reservations.
First of all, the problem of this bike ialah tayar depan besar. I takkan beli
21 inch
motor tayar besar depan, I takkan beli.
So I'm like pretty curious to see, like, does it feel like the V-Strom? Because if it does feel like the V-Strom, then
Nobody lean with this bike. On road. On road.
people more skilled than us, like. People are not scared.
Yeah.
The last bike that had a similar setup that we rode was the Suzuki V-Strom 800DE, and that didn't feel great on the road, especially in the turns and at highway speeds. And that makes sense because this configuration is obviously for off-roading and rolling over big rocks. But the roads to the nearest Starbucks are often paved with smooth tarmac, so the Norden might lose some crucial points here. To my surprise though, the Norden 901 was actually great on the road, even in my novice hands. Yes, it doesn't feel as sporty as an aggressive naked or sport bike, but this thing will carve a twisty road all day. Now, we had pretty road biased tires on our test ride this time, which definitely helped things, but the overall riding dynamics felt great on the long winding sections of the Karak Highway. Even on tight switchbacks going up Genting, it felt good. The brakes had enough stopping power, although I would have liked to see a radial pull master cylinder at this price point. And it doesn't take a lot to tip the bike into the first turn, but transitioning from left to right did require a little bit of muscling. The good news is that once it's settled into a turn, it's settled. A lot of it's probably down to the bike's weight distribution, where something like a Versys would feel top heavy, the Norden doesn't, especially considering the type of bike it is. Our Husqvarna Marshal told us that they've put in the work to keep that weight relatively low, even splitting the fuel tank and mounting it on either side of the chassis rather than at the top of the frame.
So the fuel tank shape macam U. It's not one piece.
It's not kat sini.
So when you ride kan, dia punya center of gravity dia rendah. So senang nak tilt.
Then there's that peach of an engine. An 889cc parallel twin with a 285-degree crank producing a juicy 105 horsepower at 8,000 RPM and 100 Nm of torque at 6,500 RPM. For the road, it feels like just the right amount of power with a very usable power band. I almost never felt like I needed any more, even on the high-speed sections of the Karak Highway. It pulls from almost any gear at any RPM, making the climb up on this heavy bike feel effortless. The Norden 901 is also packed with tech and features, and there were frankly too many for me to really test out on our short ride, but I'll give you some of the highlights. The up and down quick shifter worked great on the ride up. It's not really the best system I've used because the downshifts leave a lot to be desired, but it does what you need it to do. Definitely better than the one on the Suzuki V-Strom. Cruise control was also a lot of fun to use on the boring sections of MR2, and I imagine that this would make the bike a fantastic tourer. Obviously, with ride-by-wire, you'll also get access to riding modes with 3 that are selectable right off the bat. What's cool about the Norden 901 is that it'll also let you go into the menus and fine-tune parameters like traction control and throttle response with the Explorer mode. The bad news is that the Explorer mode is a 1200 ringgit optional extra. Oy. I guess that wouldn't be a big deal if you were only going to your local cafe.
Okay, so the thing that we just found out is that our seats have actually been shaved a little bit to make it easier to stand on, and even then I was tiptoeing already. So this is the standard seat. So there's no indentation. You can see that one has like a bit of a... This has a bit of an indentation. Make it a bit skinnier. So now I'm gonna try the standard seat with the standard height. It's a full tiptoe situation.
I'll admit that this was a little intimidating at first.
This big front wheel feels so weird. It feels so weird. It also feels very wide.
It's really wide between the thighs, it's really tall and quite heavy, and I thought that it wouldn't be great to split traffic with.
It's not easy, dude.
But to be honest, the bike performed way better than I expected. The handlebar actually feels pretty narrow for a bike of this size, so it doesn't feel like I'm always about to knock someone's mirrors off. All things considered, it was surprisingly good even through heavy Sungai Buloh traffic. It's not what I would call a great commuter bike though. There is, for example, a huge catalyzer sitting just under your butt, which absolutely cooked my legs in traffic, and it's still a pretty tall bike, so I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who's lacking in height or skill.
Yeah, but the seats memang tinggi lah, tak practical lah untuk daily ride.
So you prefer the shaved seat lah?
Yeah, safe shit.
It makes a big difference right, actually.
Safe shave seat.
Shaved seat lah. Makes a big
Shave. So betul lah, nanti mencarut.
Jangan lah. Nanti kena demonetize.
Seat. Oh, tapi ada ni lah, tadi lupa nak mention.
Apa? Swing damper?
Ada damper, patutlah macam
saber.
I was informed that Husqvarna has a lowering kit for this bike, so if the height is really an issue, maybe that's something you can opt for. But there are upsides. The seat, for example, is large, and I think it will accommodate passengers really well.
I think lots of space. The passenger seat is maybe a little bit stiff, but overall, can't complain.
The adjustable WP Apex suspension is pretty comfortable, even though I was told that this was set up to be more sporty. The only thing I was quite unhappy with was the non-adjustable windshield, because at my height, it's not tall enough to do anything but direct a torrent of air directly at my helmet for maximum buffeting.
But one thing is that I really do like this kind of rally style design. I really like for example, the T7, the Desert X. I love the direction that these ADV bike designs are going compared to like a GS or like a Multistrada V4, right? And I mean, I'm like low-key biased for Husqvarna designs lah. So we'll see about that.
I think this might be the Husqvarna Norden 901's biggest selling point for the purposes of parking in front of a trendy cafe. It's a looker for sure in my books. It has great proportions and a really sleek, modern but timeless look that Husqvarna always seems to nail with their motorcycles. And it doesn't look like a BMW GS, so nobody's going to think that you're trying to pass it off as one. In fact, it looks distinctly different even among similarly rally-styled bikes. You'll definitely turn some heads as you pull up to a cafe. Of course, you will want to put an aftermarket exhaust on it because otherwise nobody's gonna hear you coming with this stock one. But at the end of the day, can you park this in front of Starbucks and not be completely ashamed as soon as a GS pulls up? No, you can't. And I think you shouldn't buy the Norden 901 for that. It simply doesn't have the showiness that's required nor the brand allure of a BMW badge. I mean, nobody's gonna know what a Husqvarna is. That's why you should buy it to ride it. You should buy it to push it hard on the road, where I think it's pretty good, or push it off-road, where I've heard it's even better. The Norden 901 isn't meant to be kept spotless in a parking lot. It's supposed to be covered in mud and ripping through trails all around the country because that's what it was built to be, an excellent 50-50 adventure motorcycle.
First ride impressions. Apa ceritanya?
Apa ceritanya?
What do you think? From before you got on the bike to now.
Straight line dia best, stable. Mungkin sebab ni kot, steering damper. Tapi waktu cornering dia even better. Sebab tayar dia besar kan. Bila kita lean dia stay je angle tu. Dia tak nak pergi jatuh atau naik. Tapi
At first you were very skeptical kan?
Ya, tak macam apa?
E-Strom.
800DE. 800DE dia macam tak stable sangat lah. Tak sure kenapa. Tapi this one dia stable. And then when you lean kan, dia stay. Bila you nak naik, dia kena bagi a bit of strength lah untuk tegakkan balik. But if you lean tu memang sedap lah.
So has this changed your opinion on 21-inch tyre?
Tak juga, sebab biasanya 17, 16, ini 21, 18. So dia macam lagi look besar daripada biasa.
Dia off-road lah.
Dan maknanya lagi mahal untuk tukar tayar. So ini bukan untuk orang yang poket nipis .